Alrighty, getting after it yet again today. Wrote down what I'm talking about, so then we don't have another issue like yesterday where I just start fucking rambling, and I'm very good at rambling, so much so that I just completely forget the entire point of what I was going to say. So, wrote that down. So I have two specific things to hit a rant on, and now I have it written down so I don't forget the second thing. So, I was going through an old book I read today, so I like to go through books, read them, put a lot of highlights, take a lot of notes, go through and kind of create a top 10 list out of that. So went back through one of the books that I have a top 10 list for. It is The Weightlifting Handbook by Brandon Accardi. He is a Australian Olympic weightlifting coach. I get a lot of my stuff, or a lot of my mindset, a lot of kind of like how I think through things from him, from Chris Speed up in the UK, from Angus Bradley over in Australia as well. Few others, but like I get a lot of the thought processes that I've gone through and idea changes and challenges to my ideologies and challenges to my perspective in the past year have been prompted by those men. So that has been very good overall. What the fuck is going on now? So went through that book again, the Weightlifting Handbook. And I do not think I'm going to be able to get out of here. Alrighty, there we go. I just completely cut someone off, and we are good to go again. So, went through that book again, printed out, made a bunch of highlights, and as I was going through that, a good quote I took from there, I don't remember the quote, so it's not a quote, but a good thought process I got from there is, I think it was something like optimal implies predictability. And predictability is something that is rarely seen with humans just in general. So we start out with this grand idea of periodization. Periodization is the long-term planning and structure of a program, specifically for a weightlifter in this context. So when we talk about periodization, we talk about it from really like a Soviet stance, is where a lot of this, that's where all of this came from, is from Soviet Russia, or I guess the Soviet Union. And then after that, from all those Eastern Bloc countries that broke apart. Coming from there, where it's extremely structured, it was communist, it was dictatorship, where everyone has to do what they're told, and if they don't, they get killed, and their family does not get food rations anymore. Predictability is a thing there, because you have control over every single thing, because you have threatened death and starvation otherwise. When we look at free societies, so specifically talking about the United States here, that's where I live, we don't have that same level of predictability. We don't have that same level of being able to control every aspect of someone's life. We have to then be a lot more malleable. We can have this grand plan, but we really can't do much with that. It has to be malleable. It has to be ready to change at any point. So like when I first started coaching, I would write out these great 8, 12, 16-week mesocycles, go from there. Over time, started writing out weeks or 4 weeks at a time, write it out by the block. And from there, now I really just write all my shit out 1 week at a time. Write it out 1 week at a time because there is so much change that happens on a week to week, whether it be change in someone's life, the feedback I get from someone, whatever it may be. Having something so rigid just doesn't work with actual humans who have actual lives. And we talked about that the other day, but just wanted to touch on that. Optimal and just granted, just really periodization in general relies on the premise that humans are rational and that they are predictable. Humans are neither rational nor predictable. That's where a lot of this logic falls apart in the grand scheme of periodization. So, just a little rant there. there was something else I wanted to talk about, and I did forget about it. So good thing I wrote it down. And it's all about programming needs to be athlete-specific, not sport-specific. Again, this is a topic from that book that he mentioned on that just kind of sparked in my mind again. We love to talk about these sport-specific contexts where we need to do more of this exercise. We need to train more of this way to get to that specific goal. Cool. Great idea. Great idea in team sport context, really more than anything. When we look at the individual sport, that is Olympic weightlifting. No matter how close you are with your team, it is an individual sport at the end of the day. We can't train sport specific. We can have this grand idea that, oh, we need to be more explosive. We need to have this great grand triple extension. If the athlete triple extend and is explosive just fine and that's not one of their weaknesses, then fuck sport specificity, because that doesn't matter at all, because the athlete doesn't need that. We need to tailor the program to the athlete. We need to be athlete specific. That same way, one of my entry onboarding questions I have for all of my athletes is, what do you need out of a coach? It is not, hey, here is how I coach, here's how it's going to go. It is, what do you specifically need out of a coach? Do you need someone to coddle you? Which, flat out, I am not the person to coddle you, so if that is your answer, hey, we should probably talk about you going to a different coach. Do you need someone just in your corner to be a hype man? Do you need someone to actually break down the deep science for all of that? Do you need someone just really who's just there for you and in your corner and supportive? I can play any of those roles, minus the coddling. I do not play the coddling role. I am very blunt in what I tell people and how I coach. So coddling off the table. But the rest of it, completely athlete dependent. I have some people who I talk to on a daily basis. I have some people who I talk mad amounts of shit to. Like, I just called someone a naff the other day. Their cue was, don't be a naff. Don't be a non-athletic fuck. Because they were lifting like a non-athletic fuck. I have people that I have that relationship with. I also have people that I only talk to once a week when we do our check-ins. That's cool too. That is the level of coaching that they need. That is what they need out of a coach. So I tailor what I give to my athletes based on what the athlete needs and how the athlete will best respond. It is completely athlete specific. Looking at that from a training standpoint, we say we need to train these specific qualities, but at the end of the day, we already tailor our exercise selection to be athlete specific. If an athlete really struggles with going on their toes, I just gave someone flat-footed snatch pulls plus a snatch. So overemphasize getting that float driving through our heels, and then same thing, transfer that to the snatch. So we are already athlete specific in our exercise selection, but then we go into progressions, periodization schemes, we go into tapering, we go into whatever it is, like the actual X's and O's of what the athlete does, and it's completely, nope, set in stone, this is what we do, this is what this person needs. That's not the fucking case. We're athlete specific when we talk about, oh, hey, yeah, this athlete needs more of that, this athlete needs more of that. But when it comes to actually giving the person what they need, turn up their nose. Nope, that's not how I do it. I don't do that around here. Fuck that. I have done, every single athlete is basically on a completely separate program. I have one girl who struggles with knee pain and has struggled with walking occasionally for the past 2 years. She does no more than 100 reps a week. On average, she's between 70 and 90 reps a week. I have some people who are between 180 and 220 on a consistent basis. They get two completely different things because I'm giving it to the athlete. I obviously have blanket ideas and blanket templates and blanket things that I kind of hey, this is a general starting point for most people that I like to do. But from there, it very much takes its own path where it becomes completely athlete dependent because the needs of the athlete come before the needs of the sport. If you can train the athlete to excel in the sport, you're going to be much better off than trying to fit the athlete into a box of, hey, this is what the sport needs, or this is what I think best is the best qualities for the sport, versus here's what the athlete needs to become the best athlete possible to then, so that they can then express those qualities on the platform. Train the athlete to be the best athlete possible in every quality. Don't just put them in a box and say, hey, this is what Olympic weightlifters do. This is what all Olympic weightlifters need. Completely static. This is unchanging. This is what we're doing. We need to be athlete specific. So really overall here is we need to treat each individual person as an individual. Fucking crazy thought process here when we're doing one-on-one coaching to actually coach people one-on-one. Crazy fucking thought process. I know. But yeah, end of the day, athletes, humans, people, everyone are not rational. They are not They are not predictable. We cannot predict the future. We cannot predict fucking day to day from people. So we have to build in ways for athletes to auto-regulate. We have to build in ways to reach that specific athlete where they are at, whether that be physically, whether that be mentally, whether that be communication style. We need to meet the athlete where they are at. I just saw this fucking post from, I believe the Instagram handle is Stu_Kodiak Barbell. He is a powerlifting coach. He works as well for Prescript, which is where I have one of my certifications through. And he posted, this was some reel about, hey, if you're struggling with interacting or struggling with like being annoyed or just struggling with whatever with one-on-one clients, here's your solution. Next page popped up. Get the fuck over and deal with it. That's what coaching is. Like, this is barely a real job. Like, when I actually like think through my job, like, it's a pretty fucking cushy gig. Like, I spend 8 hours, I spend 11 hours at my job. I work out midday. But I spend 11 hours mostly in a gym. The times when I am not in a gym, I'm writing programs. I then spend the other half of my day talking to my athletes and programming for my Olympic weightlifting athletes. So I spend the majority of my working hours either sitting in a gym, thinking about being in a gym, or writing programs for people to be in a gym. Like, that's a pretty fucking cushy gig, if you ask me. Like, I don't make a shit ton. No strength condition, no coaches in general make a lot of money unless you're like a head football coach. But for what I make and what I do, like, it's a pretty good gig. So, like, if you're annoyed, just, like, kind of get over it almost, because, like, it's a good job. You like what you're doing. You enjoy coaching. You should if you're a coach. Imagine just, like, being in a fucking cubicle, because fuck that. That sounds absolutely terrible. So, at the end of the day, coaches need to do a better job of doing their job, of tailoring the program to the individual. If you are doing individualized programs, if you're doing one-on-one coaching, talk to the individual. Talk to the person. They are not a weightlifter. They are a person. They are not predictable. They are not rational. They do not need to fit into this little square peg of technique that you imagine. They don't need to fit into this little square peg of this is the sport. You need to then tailor what they need to them. You need to tailor the qualities of the sport to what they need more of. You need to tailor the program to the person. Crazy concept, and unfortunately it is actually a very rare thing to see in the coaching industry, is one-on-one programming actually being one-on-one. Yeah, that basically covers that. So, like, if your coach doesn't really, like, listen to you, doesn't really take your feedback into consideration, doesn't have some way for you to auto-regulate your program based on how you're feeling that day, well, then you're not getting an individual program. You are getting a template, whether it be like the exercise selection is tailored to you or not. You're getting a template of, hey, this is the box that you need to fit in. Here you go, mold to that box. Versus, hey, here is where you are at. Here is what you need as an individual. Here is how we're going to tailor that to help you then become the best possible athlete you can, to then reach the best possible pinnacle of the sport. So at really the end of the day, if your coach doesn't do that, get a better coach. If you're a coach who doesn't do that, be a better coach. And that is my mic drop we just pulled in. That's it.